Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for June the 5th. Today we are reading together Psalm number 68. The 68th Psalm has been given the title in my Bible, God's Majestic Power. I believe this psalm will be classified within a psalm of praise or as a psalm of praise. The superscription tells us this is for the choir director, a psalm of David, a song, but we're not given any historical context for the writing of the psalm, though many speculate that possibly this was written during the time of the moving of the ark from the place where it was being held for many, many years, the little bitty town. I can't remember the name of the town now. It's one of the weird names. I think I might have it right here, actually. Let's see here. Obed, from Obed in Edom to the city of David. And the text for that would be 2 Samuel chapter 6. So many think that this is a psalm that was written to mark that occasion. And there's a number of other historical markers that you could probably draw from within the psalm. Um, Moses and Miriam's song of celebration, Exodus 15. Moses climbing Mount Sinai, Exodus 19. Deborah's song in Judges 5. David dancing before the Lord. Specifically here in the moving of the ark in 2 Samuel chapter 6. So there are a number of historical events that have taken place in Israel's past that seem to be alluded to here within this psalm, but it does have this overall idea of praising God as the great warrior and as the great king who triumphs over his enemies and blesses those who trust in him. So let me get the text up on the screen for us. We'll read along together here the 68th Psalm. Psalm number 68. Psalm number 68 in verse number 1. God arises, his enemies scatter, and those who hate him flee from his presence. As smoke is blown away, you blow them away. As wax melts before the fire, so the wicked are destroyed before God. But the righteous are glad. They rejoice before God and celebrate with joy. Sing to God, sing praises to his name. Exalt him who rides in the clouds. His name is Yahweh, and celebrate before him. God in his holy dwelling is a father to the fatherless and a champion of the widows. God provides homes for those who are deserted. He leads out the prisoners to prosperity, but the rebellious live in a scorched land. God, when you went before your people, when you marched through the desert, Selah. The earth trembled, and the skies poured rain before God, the God of Sinai, before God, the God of Israel. You, God, showered abundant rain. You revived your inheritance when it languished. Your people settled in it. God, you provided for the poor by your goodness. The Lord gave the commands. A great company of women brought the good news. The kings of the armies flee. They flee. She who stays at home divides the spoil. While you lie among the sheep pens, the wings of a dove are discovered with silver, and its feathers with glistening gold. When the Almighty scattered the kings in the land, it snowed in Zalmon. Mount Bashan is God's towering mountain. Mount Bashan is a mountain of many peaks. Why gaze with envy, you mountain peaks, as the mountain God desired for his abode, or at the mountain God desired for his abode? Yahweh will dwell there forever. God's chariots are tens of thousands, thousands and thousands. The Lord is among them in his sanctuary, and as he was at Sinai. You ascended to the heights, taking away captives. You received gifts from people, even from the rebellious, so that Yahweh God might dwell there. Blessed be the Lord. Day after day he bears our burdens. God is our salvation. Selah. Our God is a God of salvation. An escape from death belongs to Yahweh, my Lord. Surely God crushes the heads of his enemies, the hairy brow of one who goes on in his guilty acts. The Lord said, I will bring them back from Bashan. I will bring them back from the depths of the sea, so that your foot may wade in blood and your dogs' tongues may have their share from their enemies. People have seen your possession, God, the possession of my God, my King in the sanctuary. Singers lead the way, with musicians following. Among them are young women playing tambourines. Bless God in the assemblies. Bless Yahweh from the fountain of Israel. There is Benjamin, the youngest, leading them, the rulers of Judah in their assembly, the rulers of Zebulun, the rulers of Naphtali. Your God has decreed your strength. Show your strength, God, you who have acted on our behalf because of your temple at Jerusalem. Kings will bring tribute to you. Rebuke the beast in the reeds, the herd of bulls with the calves of the people. Trample underfoot those with bars of silver. Scatter the people who take pleasure in war. Ambassadors will come from Egypt. Cush will stretch out its hands to God. Sing to God, verse 32, you kingdoms of the earth. Sing praise to the Lord, Selah. To him who rides in the ancient highest heavens. Look, he thunders with his powerful voice. Ascribe to God, his majesty is over Israel. His power is among the clouds. God, you are awe-inspiring in your sanctuaries. The God of Israel gives power and strength to his people. Blessed be God. That's Psalm number 68. Again, some think that this psalm was written with the historical occasion of the moving of the ark from Obed-Edom to the city of David in 2 Samuel chapter 6. And you can kind of see how this psalm might flow in that direction, as it gives just kind of a movement of God from beginning in verse number 7, how he marches from Egypt in the desert to Mount Sinai, then around some more, and then finally arrives at Mount Zion, and then the celebration of Yahweh and his strength that's described beginning in verse number 19. But let's work our way through the text. Verse number 1, God arises. That phrase there is found in Numbers chapter 10 and verse 35. And it is said it is written, and it is said to be said whenever the ark would be on the move. So Numbers chapter 10, whenever Moses would be moving the ark. Numbers chapter 10, verse 35, whenever the ark set out, Moses would say, arise, Yahweh, let your enemies be scattered, and those who hate you flee from your presence. When it came to rest, he would say, return, Yahweh, to the countless thousands of Israel. So I think right there, what we see here in this whole first half of, or this whole first psalm, or first verse of Psalm 68, again, shows us a pretty strong connection to the moving of the ark, which is one of the probably strongest evidences for this being a psalm or a song written for the moving of the ark by David specifically. And it talks in the first couple of verses about just the fear of the enemies. Again, God is a great warrior is a major theme here within this psalm. God is a great enemy, again, or a great warrior. His enemies scatter. Just as smoke is blown, he blows away his enemies. Just as wax melts, so the wicked melt before God. But notice the contrast with the righteous. But the righteous are glad. They rejoice before God and celebrate with joy. God's enemies are cursed and defeated, yes, but those who are his allies are blessed and experience his goodness in a very, very profound way. That continues on in verse number 4. Sing to God, sing praises, exalt him. We read about celebrating before him. Those are all terms that are connected with one another in verse number 4. And part of the reason for this singing and this exaltation, this celebrating of God, is the fact that he is in his holy dwelling, yes, but in this holy dwelling, he is going with the people are going to be able to see his benevolence in the greatest way. They're going to be very much provided for. And this is a sign of a true king. That's what a king should do. A king should provide for his people. And that's exactly what Yahweh does in providing for his people. But you can contrast that again with the end of verse number 6. But the rebellious live in a scorched land, where his people who are faithful to him and follow him experience his blessings and have abundance and have what they need, even the fatherless, even the widows, even the prisoners, even though they are provided for. Those who are rebellious, they do not experience God's blessing. They lived in a scorched land that does not have what they need. So now beginning in verse number 7, working through verse 18, we see the procession of Yahweh, him marching on. It begins with him going out before his people. They march through the deserts. Again, I think this seems to be coming out of Egypt, coming from Sinai, marching to the promised land. Notice that whenever he goes on his march, there's a response from the earth. The earth trembles, the skies pour rain before God of Zion, before God of Sinai, before the God of Israel. You, God, showered abundant rain, revived your inheritance. Your people settled in it. You provided for the poor by your goodness. Again, when God marches, when he is acting, those who are his people are blessed. We see a reference here, quite possibly, to either the song of Moses and Miriam in Exodus 15, or maybe even Deborah, or maybe others. Might be referenced in verse number 11, that the women are brought out with good news. And what are they saying? Well, they're saying that kings are fleeing, that God is scattering the kings of the land. So as God is going about his work, showing his power, though there are others who are proclaiming that and announcing his great victories, verses 11 through 14. Verse 15 talks specifically about the mountain that he would be on, Zion, or Bashan, and it is not the greatest or the highest of the mountains. I think Mount Hermon would be the greatest mountain in that particular area, but that's not where God was. God chose for Mount Zion, for Jerusalem, to be his dwelling place, which again is a pattern really that we see from God. He doesn't choose the greatest or the strongest by which to make his name great. No, he chooses the small people like Israel that began with Abraham and Isaac. He chooses the youngest like he did with David. He does not have to have the biggest and greatest to show his power. He takes even the things that are small or seemingly insignificant and shows how great he is by them. His chariots are tens of thousands, thousands of thousands. And Yahweh, or the Lord, is among them in the sanctuary as he was at Sinai. You ascended to the heights. And notice what happens. Takes away captives, receives gifts from the people, even from the rebellious, so that Yahweh God might dwell there. His enemies are again shown to be inferior to him, and he shows his power over those who stand against him. So that's 7 through 18. Again, this idea, this picture is painted for us of Yahweh marching on to Mount Zion, marching on to his place. And again, thinking about it from the fact that David is moving the ark from Obed of Edom into the city of David, into the area of Jerusalem on Mount Zion. They arrive there, and now having arrived at the summits, these are the proclamations that are made. Blessed be the Lord day after day. Notice the blessings of God. He bears our burdens. He is our salvation. We're able to escape from death because of Yahweh, our Lord. But for the enemy, again, just as we've seen a number of times, we see blessings to the faithful, punishment to the enemies. Surely God crushes the heads of his enemies. The hairy brow of the one who goes on in his guilty acts. Notice this is not simple imperialism, God just gaining more ground and more ground for himself. No, this is God seeking to, I think, be a judge of the wicked. He's crushing the head of the guilty one. He says, I will bring them back from Bashan. I will bring them back from the depths of the sea, so that your foot may wade in blood and your dogs' tongues may have their share from the enemies. We've seen this already as language for the judgment of sin. Think about the dogs licking up both Ahab and Jezebel. That's a picture that we've seen within Scripture that we will see in Scripture. David obviously did not see that, but we see that being something that takes place later on. Verse 24: people have seen your procession, God, the procession of my God. This is the idea of a parade coming back from war, a parade of victory coming back from war. Singers are leading the way, musicians are following. Those who are playing the tambourines. There are those blessing God in the assemblies, blessing God from the fountain of Israel. This really probably fits in possibly with the actual movement of the ark into the city of David. And those who are specifically identified, Benjamin, the youngest, leading them, and that's possibly because Jerusalem was within the land that was given to Benjamin. Judah is also mentioned, and Judah and Benjamin are often connected very closely. And then also Zebulun and Naphtali are mentioned specifically, maybe just giving representation from those tribes in the northern section of Israel. Verse 28, your God has decreed your strength. Show your strength, God. You have acted on our behalf. You've acted on our behalf. There's here again this blessing that is received by the faithful. So what can we expect pretty quickly after that? Well, something about the rebellious. Rebuke the beast in the reeds, the herd of bulls with the calves of the people. Trample underfoot those with bars of silver. Scatter the people who take pleasure in war. Wonder who that might be. Well, think about reeds, probably think of Egypt, and that seems to be correct because of verse 31. Ambassadors will come from Egypt, and Cush will stretch out its hands to God. So I think that would make sense for the one being referenced here being the beast of Egypt. Again, just showing God's power over even the world, like the world power at that time, which would have been Egypt. Finally, verses 32 through 35, sing to God the kingdoms of the earth, sing praise to Yahweh, to him who rides in the ancient highest heavens. Look, he thunders with his powerful voice. Ascribe power to God. His majesty is over Israel. His power is among the clouds. God, you are awe-inspiring in your sanctuaries. The God of Israel gives power and strength to his people. Blessed be God. Blessed be God. Now that the ark has arrived at its rightful dwelling place where it should be in the sanctuary of God, now they recognize his majesty. They recognize his power. They recognize again his awe-inspiring works and everything that he does. Again, the ark was a visual representation of God's presence, of God's power, and God's majesty. And now it was where it needed to be. It was there among the people. And with God's symbol of his power being there, the natural result is that the people would be blessed by that power and would experience that power and be bettered by the power of God being among them. A long psalm here, a psalm that quite frankly is difficult to translate. There's a number of terms here that are unique to this particular psalm. So there's some translation things going on. So your text might have read a little bit differently, and depending on who you read and what they're reading from, you might get a different idea of some of the specific details here within the psalm. But I think it does certainly show us a psalm that focuses on the power of God, him being a great warrior and being a great king and being a blessing to his people and being a curse against his enemies. We'll have to be very thankful for God's blessings to those who trust in him, and that should move us to be a people ourselves who trust in God so that we can enjoy his blessings and not have to experience the cursings that come with those who rebel against him. If you have any questions or comments about Psalm 68, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. I appreciate you taking some time reading along with me on this Wednesday. And of course, we're looking forward to being together tonight for our Bible study at 7 o'clock. Hope to see you then. Take care and God bless.